On this episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, I welcome Tim Jandt to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Jandt, aka Tim Scott, a longtime Madison radio personality whose journey off the mic is filled with love, loss, and resilience. After losing his wife Paula to cancer in 2009, Tim found hope again with Dawn Bolden, who had faced a similar loss. Together, they built a life rooted in family, love, and strength. This will be a good one. Here we go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. What is up wherever you are or whatever you are doing? I hope you're having a great day. Welcome to another episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. You can listen to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and YouTube at Survive and Thrive 8791. You can follow the podcast and get access to previous episodes on Facebook at Survive and Thrive 8791, the podcast. Don't forget to hit that follow button wherever you listen to the show. Leave me a comment if you liked what you heard. If there's a topic or you know a guest who would love to tell their story, email me at tdecora@gmail.com. Glad you could join us. Our mission is to share stories and conversations that make you cry, laugh, and think, stimulating emotions, creating laughter, and inspiring the mind. A new episode will air on Monday and Thursday morning, featuring a wide range of guests. The podcast will touch on many subjects such as, but not limited to, grief, loss of a loved one, recovery, professional setback, mental illness, success despite challenges, etc. Our guests will share how they learn to survive and thrive. On October, I'm going to drop a little conference reminder in here. On October 29th and 30th, our podcast company will be hosting the first annual Survive and Thrive 8791 Mental Health and Recovery Conference in Madison, Wisconsin. The conference will take place at the Ho-Chunk Nation Madison branch office on the southeast side of our great capital city. Several speakers will be on hand to share how they learn to survive and thrive mental health and addiction struggles. You can register for the conference, or if you are a business or a mental health and recovery advocate, you can partner with the conference through sponsorship by going to our website. And that website is surviveandthrive8791.com. You can get all the information there. This is where we get into our guest and episode intro. I should be the guest, and this guy should be running the show because once you hear him speak, you're going to say, that dude has radio voice. According to the internet, and the internet is always right.
It never lies.
Correct.
Never lies.
Correct him?
Yes. Correct. Yes.
Okay. He says correct. Yes. Well, in my house, I don't need the internet. I don't need the World Wide Web. I don't need Alexa. I don't need none of that, because I have my wife, and she's always right.
That's true. Mine as well.
That's true. Yes, we have something eerily in common. Mm-hmm. Approximately 600,000 to 700,000 men become widowers in the U.S. each year, and that's probably comes as no shock to anybody, but it does happen. On August 8th, 2009, Tim Jandt, my guest, a.k.a. Tim Scott, would join that group that nobody wants to be in, but eventually, at some point, some people will. Today, I welcome Tim Jandt, a.k.a. Tim Scott from ESPN Radio, 1070 iHeartRadio, and all that good stuff. I'll let him spread I'm just putting the peanut butter right on now. You can put the jelly on later.
Well, I just thought I was going to come on to complain about how you coach my kids, but I'll just leave that alone.
Well, that's in episode 2. We're going to have you back for episode 2.
That's the extended version.
That's the extended. That's the, what do they call it? The editor's.
Yeah. That's the editor's cut. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I welcome Tim Jandt to the Buck and Honey's remote studios. Raised on a small farm outside Melrose, Wisconsin, Tim would attend Melrose Mindoro High School. You might hear me say Mel Min, because that's what I'm used to saying, but it's Melrose Mindoro High School.
A long time ago.
And is a proud Mustang.
I am.
After high school, Tim would take his talents to the University of Wisconsin La Crosse. After college, he would start a career in radio broadcasting that has lasted, in 2025, 40 years with no end in sight. Today, I'm so glad you could join us. Tim Jandt, what is up?
How are you, buddy? It's been a while.
I'm doing good. It's been, what, two weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks, something like that.
Prior to that, yeah.
We have a lot of intersections. And I saw what you're doing from a podcast standpoint. And a mutual friend of ours told us about it. Mm-hmm. My wife, you can't see her, but she's in the background.
She's running the camera. She's running the camera.
We listened and watched, and we were impressed. And I just reached out. I think I reached out just to check in and say, hey, man, this is awesome what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, hey, come on the show. And so that's why I'm here.
Come on the show. And I came to your little studio, and not little studio, but your compound over there at the end of Fish Hatchery Road.
Yes. Did you see I wore the Wanakee shirt just for you today?
I love it. Yeah. We might have to put some tape over that spear because there's somebody in Wanakee that might want to throw some haymakers.
It's politically incorrect.
It's not to me. I lived and died for that. I try to live and die for that thing to keep it here.
I know this is not what it's about, and I'm not going to go there. That's part of the editor's cut, but I have a whole opinion about that. And I'm not going to share it here.
I talked to somebody this morning, and we're going to get the band back together, and we're going to try to do some rebranding, but that'll be for another episode.
That's right.
A couple of weeks ago, you and I were talking, and you talked about a celebration that is going to be happening in Melrose, Mindoro. What's happening?
What's left, we had a small graduating class. We had 34 kids.
34 loud and proud.
34 loud and proud, right? As my son said, years ago, we went back, and I'm sure they have, like in your high school, they probably still have some pictures of you, right? Because you were the man.
Okay.
He was okay back in the day. Well, I was kind of mediocre back in the day, but I'm on a few plaques. And I said to my son, I go, hey, I was on varsity when I was a sophomore. And what does my son say to me? Dad, wasn't everybody on varsity by the time they were a sophomore?
There's some truth to that.
Yeah, there was some truth to that. There was. But anyway, there's, I think, 26 left of the original 34, somewhere around that number. And we were and I hadn't been on Facebook for a while. And there's really about 2 or 3 guys that I still connect with, that I grew up with, because I haven't been back home in years. I've lived in Madison primarily, now in Milwaukee area. And so what happened with it was, I don't know, it was February, something like that, March. I'm like, we should do something that's going to be 40 years. Well, no one was doing anything.
Really?
So I called one of my friends, Les, who still lives back home. And I said, I got this crazy idea. I said, it's only 26. So I think we'll be able to afford this. Mm-hmm. I said, let's you and I go out on Facebook and invite the class of 1985 back to a bar in the Melrose area. And I said, you got to pick the bar because I don't know them anymore.
Would that be Melman Tap?
No, I think it's called the Fob, I believe.
The Fob.
The Fob. I don't know exactly what it means either. He set it up. But I said, we're going to buy the first round.
Okay.
And I said, so that's what we're doing this weekend as we tape this. And a lot of people have reached out. They're very excited about it. And they're happy that we're going to get together.
I'm just thinking of okay, and I've done this before. We're in Madison. There's 26. I'm buying 26 drinks. I'm going to have to pull out a couple of C notes, a couple of Benjamins.
Yeah, but this is Melrose. It's not Madison, right?
Again, I've been in that area up there. I can remember buying 10 drinks and having 2 $20 bills out, and the gal comes up and says, yeah, that'll be 10 drinks. That'll be 19 and a quarter.
Yeah.
And I said, what?
Yeah.
And she said, did I charge you too much? I said, no, that's a great amount. I'll take that one.
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah.
So Melman, it'll be a little cheaper.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And I'm excited about getting back and seeing people I haven't seen. And some of my classmates I haven't seen since we graduated from high school.
1985.
May of 1985. Yep.
That's a long time ago. How's the summer been going? Yes. This I want you to tell me about. Tell the listeners what you did. You saw an old band from about the 1980s.
Oh yeah, you were jealous. I didn't know.
My ears are ringing right now as you talking about this.
In April, I think, AC/DC came back to North America. First North American tour. Remember, AC/DC had been sidelined for a while because Brian Johnson lost his hearing. And so they had Axl Rose. They had some other people filling in as they're trying to. Yeah. And then Angus Young's brother, now it's become an AC/DC podcast. Angus's brother, Malcolm, passed away. Mm-hmm. And so they were kind of in disarray. So Brian Johnson, through a medical procedure, a fan found out about it, reached out to Brian. It's a great story. And he got his hearing back. And so then what happened with it was they announced they were going to come do a North American tour. They were only doing like 20 dates, I think. And so the Minneapolis date was the first one in 7, 8, 9 years. And
please tell me they played at where the Vikings play, US Bank.
There was 64,000 people there to see them. And people say to me what the concert was like. First of all, you have to remember when it comes to AC/DC, there are no ballads, okay? So when they started, it's like a punch in the face. And then it goes for the next 2.5, 3 hours. So 2 takeaways on this. Okay, number one, we were with another great friend of ours, Jason Adam and his wife, and he has an Apple Watch. And you know those Apple Watches, they monitor your health as well. You guys left because they're like, we need a break, right? Mm-hmm. So we're about an hour and a half into this, and Jason shows me his watch, and it says, you've been listening to high decibels for some time. Maybe you should take a break. So we laughed. You have to remember, Brian Johnson is 73 and Angus is 71. So we're 2.5 hours into the show. Angus rips off, I am not kidding, a 25-minute guitar solo. Jeez. So much so that we're like, dude, it's okay. We know you still have it, right? But this is the beauty of the first night in the tour. So now we're about 2 hours and 45 minutes. They wrap it up. Here comes the encore. So your ears are ringing to the point where they're almost bleeding, right? So what do you think the encore song is? If you're an AC/DC fan, an aficionado, what song do you think they do?
I'm going Back in Black.
No, I think that was the first song they did.
Back in Black. It hit the sack.
They did. Guess what happened? All of a sudden, they roll out the cannons, and they do For Those About to Rock, We Salute You. And the line fire, and the cannons go off,
and
right?
Cannons are going off.
Cannons are going off. And I'm like, okay, now we're going to be permanently deaf, you know?
So I just went to Def Leppard down at Summerfest.
Yeah, they were on Thursday night. They were down there a couple weeks ago.
And my ears were ringing until mid-afternoon the next day. I was concerned. I didn't need an Apple Watch to tell me you've been listening to the music and maybe you should take a break.
After 40 years of radio, I have tinnitus. And I'm like, it doesn't matter at this point. I have it. So what? So what?
Worst case scenario, it gets better. It doesn't
maybe it'll
get worse.
shake it free.
Yeah, it shook it free.
But no, I hope when I'm their age that I have the same energy. I mean, they were amazing. I was gonna
ask you too. We've been to a couple of Eagles concerts recently.
Yeah, we saw them in Milwaukee at Pfizer.
And I saw them at the Sphere for my birthday.
I've heard that's a great show.
It's life-changing.
The Sphere.
The Sphere you'll walk in, Tim Jandt, and you'll walk out a different human being.
Kenny Chesney's there right now.
Kenny Chesney's there, and this is not a joke. I think if I can't find anybody to go to or go with, I'm going to go solo, and I'm going to watch the Backstreet Boys. Just because, not necessarily for the Backstreet Boys.
Give me your man card right now.
Yeah, I'll give you my man card. I'll give whatever I need to give. But yeah, it was incredible. We're going to get moving. Any plans for travel this summer?
Actually, John and I have done a lot of traveling the last couple of years. We were RV people for a while. And what we like to do is we like to do things for a couple of years and then we change. Like we were vacation home people on a lake. We had the pontoon. We had all that stuff. And then we just decided, let's do something else. So then we bought RVs. And now we're looking for the next thing.
Before we get to your story, I got to talk about our sponsor. Our sponsor, Buck and Honey's Restaurants, are a place that people can escape to. For me, it's a great escape from cooking dinner. Do you cook?
I do.
You do. You're in that 40% that says proudly, I do.
Yeah, I enjoy cooking.
The 60%,
we cook together.
The 60% say, oh God, you don't want anything. I'm going to cook or prepare. With their great food and drink menu, 5-star customer service, and a welcoming and vibrant atmosphere, people keep coming back with locations in Sun Prairie, Monona, Wanakee, and Mount Horeb. Most communities in Dane County, which encompasses the Madison area and the surrounding area, can get to a Buck and Honey's within 10 to 15 minutes.
Isn't it crazy how they've just blown up?
No. I'll tell you why in a little bit.
Okay. All right.
I do a little drum roll.
Okay.
Have you been to Buck and Honey's?
Yes.
Which?
I've been to the one in Wanakee. I've been to the one in Sun Prairie. Those two.
That's the home office. And from what I heard early on, it's just the drinks.
Mm-hmm.
But I would recommend some pizza next time.
We had pizza, I think, in Wanakee with the kids.
The owner
tremendous.
The owner is Tim. The owner is Tom Anderson, and he's from my hometown. He's a chief, Wisconsin Dells chief, and his dad used to run an A-frame restaurant up there that specialized in Italian food, and they also made some pizza. And So they have a pizza called Bomber's Special, and Tom's dad's nickname is Bomber. So next time you go, have the Bomber Special. I've been eating that same recipe since your senior year, 1985.
And you haven't given it up yet?
I have not, and I will not. I'm going to ask if I can be buried with Bomber Special.
See, that's like when we visit Dawn's parents in Florida. You can have a Cuban sandwich anywhere, but there is a mobile gas station about 2 blocks from their house. And it is the best Cuban sandwich, Tim, you'll ever have in your life.
Mobile gas. You had me at mobile gas station.
Oh, it's tremendous. It is. It's tremendous. Sorry, I digress.
On the podcast, our guests will follow the format for sharing their story like this. On segment 1, we talk about what was it like. We'll get into Tim Jandt's history, what happened to get Tim on the podcast. And in segment 2, we continue to talk about what happened, and we get into what it's like now and discuss Tim's suggestions for thriving. You were raised in a small farm, outside of Melrose, Wisconsin, not Melrose Place, California, but Melrose, Wisconsin.
Between Melrose and Sparta, we had a place.
What was life like growing up there?
I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. It was awesome. I hated riding the school bus 2 hours, but
2 hour bus ride.
Yeah, it was 2 hours. About an hour and a half bus ride. Maybe not an hour. Well, an hour bus ride every day.
Tell us about your family growing up.
Dad was a farmer, took over the farm from my grandfather, hated every minute of it. That was not his deal. So he got into the trucking business. At one point, he was the head of transportation at a large food distributor in the La Crosse area. And he literally drove 50, 60 miles one way to work every day. And that's kind of where I got my work ethic from my dad, just watching him, and that's how we did stuff. We still continued as a farm, but we rented out the land to some neighbors. And
good idea.
Yeah, but I mean, I love growing up in a small town. I wouldn't change it for the world. And I think is when my late wife and I had kids and different things, we were kind of in search of the same thing, trying to grow up in a small town, and that's what we did.
And you found a big town, Wanakee, which has
when we moved in, it was not a big town. It was a small town in the late 90s. And then it's kind of changed a lot.
Siblings?
I have 2 younger brothers.
2 younger brothers.
Yeah. My middle brother, Sam, is an attorney. He was a state's attorney in the state of Minnesota for a long time. He's kind of semi-retired now. Lucky. He gets to retire before I do. And he's now in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Him and his wife moved there recently. And my other brother, interesting story, was a writer, worked for DC Comics for a long time. Actually, at one time, do you remember when in Wanakee where they used to have the comic book shop on Main Street? Well, he was staying with us, and we walked in there, and some of the things he worked on was on display there.
Oh, no kidding.
And the shop owner was like, "You're this guy?" And we're like, "Yeah, it's just my brother, you know."
Just my brother.
But anyway, he since then, he is now an American family. And has been an American family for, I don't know, probably 15 years, I think.
That's a pretty good brand.
Yeah, moved back.
DC.
Yeah.
AmFam.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, his career has been very interesting. He's done a lot of different things. So
you are remarried.
I am.
And have an amazing wife. She's running the camera today. And 4 kids. Can you spin some yarns about that?
About my boys.
And your wife.
And my wife. I know that, survive and thrive. My survival and, successes I've had after my life changed dramatically. I give credit to 2 people, and one of them is group, is my 3 sons who, when my wife passed away, I had a 10-year-old, I had a 15-year-old, and I had a 17-year-old. And
you had your hands full.
I did. And, when this happened, and for those who have walked a similar path, it's not the physical side of the relationship that you miss. Maybe in some cases in mine it wasn't. It's really the companionship. And the history with my wife was that we grew up together. Her older brothers, my dad played softball against each other. We had known each other our entire lives, didn't start dating until the summer after we graduated from high school. But we were inseparable. We had kids young. We got married young. She took me to my first job interview in radio.
And tied your tie for you.
Yes, she did. When eventually when it led us to Madison and to Wanakee, she was active in Booster Club and all that kind of stuff. And the way we lived life was that she wanted to be a mom. She loved being a mom. She took care of the family side of things, and I went out and pursued my career and, brought home the money, so to speak, and that type of stuff. And then there was a different plan. And so what happened with it was that in my case, what the boys did was they made me reevaluate what was more important in my life. And then it motivated me because I had to be in a situation now where, I had in my place of employment, I'm in management, so I had people who were depending on me there. And then, but I realized the people who needed me at work weren't as important as the people who needed me at home. And, it's a situation where, I met Dawn, and in Dawn's case, she walked the same path that I did, unfortunately. And that's how we connected, and we just went from there.
And we're going to have her, if she is willing to, seeing how much fun we're having right now, she will be on an episode in the near future. You attend Melrose Mindoro High School, and that's located right around the La Crosse area, the Cooley region.
It's closer to Black River Falls.
Closer to Black River Falls, just north of La Crosse, western Wisconsin. You're a proud Mustang. What did you participate during high school? I
played baseball and I played basketball. And I wasn't Tim Decora good. I wasn't even close to Tim Decora good. But I was on some pretty...
You digress. You're digressing now.
I played on some pretty good teams.
You did?
That had a lot of success. Had a tremendous coach in Graham Williams who later in life...
He went to Sparta then.
Yeah. Later in life, he became a mentor to me. And, there's always people in your life when you're in that moment, you don't realize how important they were. About probably 10 years ago now, I was doing WIAA state basketball on the radio, on a statewide radio network. And we were trying to find coaches and different people to do color commentary. And I asked you about it, and she's like, well, reach out to him. So I reached out to him. I hadn't talked to him since probably high school. And he was shocked that I wanted him to come down and do it. And it was one of the best times that I had. And more importantly to me, I had a chance to thank him because there was a time where in practice, I got into a fight with a guy and he threw me out of practice. He didn't throw the star out of practice. He threw me out of practice, right? Even though the star started it. But it was one of those things where I learned from that. And he really was. I'm sure you have had coaches like that too. And there's probably people, if they haven't already, maybe eventually they'll come up to you and say, hey, thank you for what you did as a coach when you coached them too.
After high school, you would take your talents to the University of La Crosse, Wisconsin La Crosse. What was the lure? Did you have any other suitors?
No. My mother said, you're going to go to college and you're going to get a degree. You're the first one. So here's the cool story about La Crosse. All I wanted to do at that point in my life was be in radio. That was it. I mean, I knew at an early age, that's what I wanted to do. My friends will tell you that back in high school, this is all I wanted to do was that. My idol growing up was Robin Yount. Every team I played on, I had number 19.
Same.
He was the guy, right? Well, I realized in my junior year that I wasn't going to be Robin Yount as a baseball player. But, and this as a former athlete too, and high school is a little bit different. I mean, in college and even in the pros, you're in big arenas. But a high school gymnasium that is packed, it's special. And so...
I can smell popcorn, by the way, now.
I love popcorn, by the way. So my high school, my senior year, we were really good. And we played in packed gyms all over the place. And so what I was trying to find after I got done was trying something that felt that same way, that energy. And that's where it led me to broadcasting, was because I did a lot of high school games across the state for years. And being in a gym and being there in a sectional final or being in the state tournament when, for example, when the Holman girls won their first state championship and I called it from the field house.
1995.
I think so. DJ Smaling, I think, was the head coach. I think. But the guy I was doing color with babysat the head coach. So he's crying, right?
What are you crying for?
Yeah, what are you crying about? And I remember one year I drove all the way up by Rice Lake to do a high school state sectional final, right? And the team that we were playing, they lost in the sectional final. I was sitting next to another couple at the broadcast table. She was keeping stats and he was doing the play-by-play. And Tim had, remember what a beehive hairdo is?
Oh, yeah.
So she had the beehive. She was rocking the beehive, right?
That'd be that Simpson gal that has a beehive, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Marge.
Yeah, like Marge, yeah. And so what happened with it was we lose the game, right? And of course, you follow a team all year and you get involved with them a little bit. Yeah, I'm disappointed because at that point, I never had the chance to go to Madison to do a state tournament game. I thought, it was one of the goals I wanted to have. And when the final horn sounded, I looked to my left and he is crying and she is weeping. And I'm looking at this going, what the heck's wrong with these people? And all the fans came up and they're like giving him hugs and high fives and stuff. What I found out afterwards when I wrapped up the broadcast, the team had not been to state since 1969. He had been doing games on the radio since 1969.
Wow.
Every game, every year, he was doing games. He was probably in his 70s by then. It was just one of those things that reminded me about sports. And, and that's the passion that I have for it and being around it and that kind of stuff.
Not too long into your professional life, you would marry a nice gal, Paula Craig, from the other Twin City, Mindoro.
Yeah, that's right.
On August 8th, 1987. That was a great year, by the way. How did the two of you meet? I know you talked a little bit about that.
We went to high school together. We grew up together, never dated. We were friends. And because of our families, small town, her dad, or not her dad, her brothers and my dad played softball against each other. So we just met the summer of my senior year. There was, I don't know if I should put this in the podcast. I was trying to use Paula to reconnect with a girl that I had dated previously. And
I've heard that before.
And it didn't work out. And so we were really good friends. Paula and I were really good friends. And it just went from friendship to the next step. And we started running together that summer of 87. And we were together until 2009. She always had a smile on her face. Mm-hmm. She was always, how are you? That was always her thing. My dad always referred to it as Paula's the duck on the water. And what he meant by that is if you've seen a duck on the water, just everything seems effortless, right? But underneath, the legs are just churning.
The legs are churning.
She had a lot of...
She had the it factor.
Well, yeah, she had the it factor, but I'm always amazed by her strength because she overcame a lot. She did not grow up in the best home environment. And I think that's one of the things that she wanted more than anything else was family and stability. And that's what I guess my family gave her because we were stable. I had a great mom and dad, still do. They're still with us. I think that's and my dad took to her right away because he had 3 boys. She was like a daughter he never had. They hit it off right away. And I think that's the thing when we look back at what happened in 2009. And I know it's about my recovery and stuff, but she touched so many people that, like in Wanakee, for example, we were so active in football booster club and everything else. And we were talking about this before we came on, is that at her visitation, it was full in town. And my mom came up to me and said, do you get it now? I looked at my mom and go, what do you mean? She goes, you're the radio guy, but she's more famous than you are. I said, yeah, you're right. But again, it was a testament to, and Dawn has a similar story about her husband, Bill, too, is that when you're gone and when your moment happens, when you see the outpouring of love and support and the respect that, people give, it's a testament to that you did things the right way. For us, to see the entire Wanakee football team show up, led by Coach Rice and the staff.
A legion of people.
Yeah. And it was a thing where, you were just kind of taken aback by it. The struggles you have with it, our pastor that night said to us, to the group, if you're looking for an answer, I can't give you one. Why this happened? She was 42 years old. You can see all the people who loved her. She had great kids. Husband, I'm just kidding. He said, if you're looking for an answer from me, I can't give you one. And so what happened for me was I had a lot of friends and family who told me, faith is the answer. Faith is the answer. And I'm like, it ain't the answer for me, because here's my guy telling me don't look at me for an answer, right?
And one of his guys.
Yeah, one of his guys. What I found out was I was wrong. They were right and I was wrong with it. That's kind of where shortly thereafter my road to recovery started. Everybody's road is different. Everybody's pathway is different.
It is.
Mine's unique because of the fact that when after this happened, my mom, who had been a nurse's aide at a CNA at a retirement home in the Sparta area for 35 years, she quit and to come live with us. And so that was the first woman in my life that stepped in. And I've shared this story before. So when we were going through cleaning out things in the house, I opened a nightstand we had next to our bed, and there inside was a Bible. It was Paula's Bible when she got confirmed. And I opened this Bible up, and I opened it up to a page, and there's a stamp in it. And the stamp, I just looked at it, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but what it said was, it basically told a story about the men coming from the holy wars were coming back. And they need not worry about anything because the women had taken care of everything after that. Mm. And to this day, I can't find that. Mm. Not the Bible, the passage. I've talked to my pastor several. They don't know about it either. So really it was the first time where I went, okay, that's odd. So then things started piling up where I had to go to the bank. The person who helped me at the bank to figure out my finances was a woman. Every step of the way in my journey, it's always been a woman who's helped me. Mm. I was the first time I went shopping, grocery shopping. Not that I hadn't gone grocery shopping before, but I was in the Pig in Wanakee, and my young son Cam and I were going through, and Dad's buying groceries. We had a cart full of French fries. We had a cart full of corn dogs and pizza. And Twinkies probably. And a woman that you know very well, and I do. Matter of fact, she later became your daughter-in-law, mm-hmm. Chris and Samantha Murray. And Chris was incredible friends with my wife. And she didn't know I was going to be there. But lo and behold, Chris pulls me aside. She looks at this cart and she goes, no.
WTF.
Yes. And so she said, put that stuff back. And she took me around and we bought fruit. We did this. We did all this other stuff. So another female in my life. My pastor in Wanakee was a she. And I didn't know what to do. I was ready to pack up and I was ready to go back to Melrose. I had come to Madison to take this job. Paula wasn't with me anymore. I was truly lost. I didn't know what to do. And I went to see my pastor, and to this day, I don't know why I went. Something compelled me I should go. I think more what it was, I wanted someone to listen to me. And so I went, and I spent about maybe an hour talking to her. And she didn't say hardly anything at all. And then finally, when I finished, she looked at me and said something that I have used since then on a regular basis when I feel it applies. I said to her, she said to me, Tim, did you ever think you were given this platform for a reason? And I went, no, I guess I never thought about that. She goes, think about that. Did you ever think you were given this platform for a reason? And it stopped me. And it was kind of like the first step I had to my recovery was the fact that I took into totality what I was doing and where I was in my career standpoint and my family. And brother, let me tell you, it wasn't easy, but I have great, great boys, my 3 boys. And now Dawn blessed me with a 4th one. No, she didn't have a child. He was 8 when he came into her life. It was a thing where just step by step, it became on the road to recovery for me. You know Scott Nelson, right?
Deep connection, yeah.
From Sun Prairie, used to be the AD. He and I did Badger football together forever. Scott is a really good friend. And when all this happened, Scott said something to me at the time that I didn't realize what it meant. But I believe it was his wife or some family member had gone through something traumatic, like as I was going through. And he said, what you realize is that everything around you slows down. And And he goes, you'll hear things like you've never heard it before. You'll see things like you haven't seen it before. And so after Paula died, I took a week off of work. I remember one of the first days I was home after the funeral and everything else. And I'm walking out my garage. And it was a day like today, except it was in August, and school had started and kids were going back. And for the first time, I noticed a plane going by, and I noticed kids walking to school and a school bus and all this stuff. And it struck me as my life had just ended. Everything I knew in my world and everything else had ended. And everybody else was just continuing on. And it was what Scott was telling me was that, hey, life continues. And it wasn't one of those things after I saw that I went, okay, yeah, I got it. All right, let's go. No, it was not that. But it was kind of one of the first things that I saw. I realized that, yeah. And what I did was I threw myself into my work, which now when I look, my youngest son did some counseling. My two older ones did not. I did not. When I look back on it, I probably should have found somebody at that moment. What I didn't know was that God had a plan for me, and it will later become my wife, who has become, my second best friend in my life.
Your second rock.
Yes. She's the reason why I'm doing what I am today.
Because our listeners want to hear more, and I want to hear more of your story. We're going to talk about our sponsor.
In radio, what they says, time to pay the bills.
We're going to pay some bills right now. Buck and Honey's has been with the Survive and Thrive 8791 podcast since the beginning, with 4 locations in the Madison area. One is always near. People ask why Buck and Honey's. Owner Tom Anderson places a high priority on the mental health of his employees. He has a mental health professional available for them should they need support. I don't know how many businesses go above and beyond their EAP, Employee Assistance Program, but Tom Anderson and Buck and Honey's does. In 2001, your wife, Paula Jandt, is diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, which would lead to some serious complications in the years to follow. In segment 2, Tim Jandt is going to share how that would affect him and his 3 sons. Please stay tuned. Don't change that channel. You're not going to want to miss segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. We will be back.
If you, a loved one, or someone you know is experiencing a physical, mental, or emotional crisis, there is help and resources out there. Contact NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline, at 1-800-950-6264. This is a free service providing information, resource referrals, and support to people living with a mental illness, their family, providers, and the public. United Way 211 is available 24/7, 365, and offers free confidential assistance. They connect people with the local programs and services that can help. Dial 211. Emergency crisis services, dial 911. The Suicide Prevention Lifeline, dial 988. To connect via web, chat, visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Along with those numbers, there is help. You just need to say 3 words. I need help. Now, back to the show.
We are back. Welcome back to segment 2 of Survive and Thrive 8791. I'm your host, Coach Tim Decora. We are in the Buck and Honey's remote studios on the east side of our great capital city of Madison, Wisconsin. The podcast is where I feature guests who share their story in hopes of helping others who may be struggling with what life throws at them. Tim Jandt is here, a.k.a. Tim Scott, to share his story and how he and his 3 sons have managed life without a wife and a mother to lean on. They are surviving and thriving in their own way. So we kind of talked about a lot of this stuff, but in 2001, maybe we'll just gloss over some of this, but your wife is diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. With this disease come treatments and medication that can help manage the symptoms. And in some cases, like Paula's, there comes a time where surgery might be an option. Tell us about surgery.
Well, it really starts before that. There's certain drugs that they offer. And when it comes to, this type of stuff, you trust. I didn't, we were at it, and I'm not going to name names, what hospitals we were in the Madison area, but, we were putting on certain medications to keep it under control. What we learned later is that there can be severe forms of it. And some of the side effects of the drugs are possible cancer. And so what happened is that my wife was a fair complected woman, and she contracted a melanoma in the back of her leg. And so as we were doing the ulcerative colitis, then she had the melanoma in her leg. And so we treated it, and she went through the cancer treatments, but she had to stop the ulcerative colitis treatments at that time for that. And then, so she beat the cancer, and everything seemed great. So what happened with her was that we decided to get a second opinion because a friend of ours in Wanakee, she was a nurse, and she said that, you can go in and in severe cases like this, you'll have to have, your colon removed. And we were like, fine, let's do that. We're going to live our life. This will be great. We've been together since we've been 18 years old, and we're going to rock this, and we're going to do it. So we go in for the surgery, and it's a long surgery. We went in on June 26th of 2009. It was like a 10-hour surgery, 10 hours. We're about 45 minutes into the surgery, and the doctor comes and finds me. And he said, there's a lump on her leg. Do you know what that might be? And Paula had told me that she had bumped her leg at work, bumped into it. Now, when I look back, I probably think that she knew what it was, and she was just, was scared, as we all were with stuff. Mm-hmm. So he said, well, I'm going to do a biopsy of that, and then I'll let you know. So they proceeded with the surgery, and she made it through the surgery, and that was the next step. Well, the doctor pulled me aside the next day, and he said, it's cancer and it's back. So you have to make a decision what you're going to do. Is it you're going to fight the cancer, or you're going to, deal with ulcerative colitis? The problem with it was that the cancer was back with a vengeance. And so what happened with it is it quickly got into her lymph nodes, and before long it got in, it just, by 2009, or not 2009, by August, she was gone. And, one of the things that we had talked leading into this is that, where were you at in this mentally? And we had gotten through so much in our lives.
Up to that point.
I never thought that she was going to pass away. Never did. Absolutely not. Even when seeing her come out of treatments and stuff, we get through it. We always did. We survived, right? Now when I look back, I was in denial. That's my greatest regret, is that, and I can talk openly about this, and because Dawn and I have walked the same path. I love my wife. I still love my wife. Mm-hmm. And I miss her. I do. What we talk about is that we put all of our emotions and stuff into a chest, and we sit on top of that chest. And there are times where, whatever reason, that chest is opened up. Things happen in your life. You see things, different things like that. And what I've learned through my survival with this is that it's not wrong. What it is, it's a tribute to remember, to share. Again, it goes back to what I said, what my pastor said to me about it's your platform. And what you find in this journey is, and you don't realize it at the time, is that what you're truly blessed with, and you are too, and you and I talked about this, you're blessed with amazing strength. It's not the ability to go out and lift a car. That'd be cool if you could do that. But it's the strength to get through. I shared the story with you about, I'm probably a month after Paula died, and Nick, my son, was playing JV and varsity. And he had a JV game on a Thursday night. I think, was it Wednesday or Thursday they played, or not? Thursday. And then they played on Thursday. So of course, they had white tops and white pants. And Nick played a lot in that JV game. So I'm scrubbing uniforms at 11:30 at night. I never scrubbed a uniform in my life. And that baby came out crystal white. And I was so proud of myself that I did that. And I wasn't exhausted. I wasn't tired. It was just what you had to do. Mm-hmm. You had to survive, and then you hoped you would thrive. But at that time, you're just trying to survive. I mean, the thing with it is that when this happens, there's no roadmap. There's no user's manual that says, okay, you've lost your spouse. You need to do X, Y, and Z. And every path is different. I'm I'm truly blessed when I look back at, where we are today, but it wasn't me. It was Chris Murray. It was all these people that
were falling in out of the air.
They brought food to us to the point where we were like, please, no more lasagna. It's great, but no more. But it was so many people along the way that you never knew that were there. And the most amazing part about it was, for me, it was the people that you never expected and the people you expected to help out didn't really help out.
Sometimes didn't.
Right. But the people that you didn't expect, those were the ones that stepped up first. And they didn't want any pat on the back, nothing. And then they would go back into the shadows again. And those are the people you find out really in the end. Those are your true friends,
We're going to fast forward to, well, really not too much, is in 2010.
Oh boy, my life changed again.
Because we talked about this, and I'm going to take my man card back and maybe take you need some companionship.
Yeah.
And men and women, everybody needs some companionship. Somebody they can hold hands with, whatever man puts the hand on the small of the back.
It's not even that. It's more on the lines of, honey, how was your day?
How was your day?
Yeah.
Just knowing that you have somebody to go back to.
Yes.
So you get back into the dating game, and
I love it. You got back in, like I was running to get back into the dating game. No, that wasn't the case.
What was your app of choice?
My app of choice?
Match, eHarmony, Tinder. Go ahead and hit that.
So it was eHarmony, and
it didn't take long.
I was really, for me, it was not about the physical side. That's not what it was. I was just lonely. Mm-hmm. And people will tell you that I need to have companionship. I just don't. I mean, Paula and I were together since we were 18 years old. Mm-hmm. And not that I was, just tried to find out, what's next. But what happened with it was that I go on eHarmony the first time, free weekend. I think it was Thanksgiving.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, they probably don't even do it anymore. So anyway, I was so embarrassed and I was so guilty. I felt so much guilt for doing it. I closed on my laptop and I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry, that type of thing.
And booted up a Disney movie or something.
Yeah, something. So then Christmas, no, it was New Year's, and saw the commercial again. And so I went back and I looked and I had 40 or 50 people that wanted a match, and suddenly my confidence goes. And by then, my mom had moved home. My mom said to me, she goes, "You're going to be fine. I'm leaving.
My work is done here."
Yes, in essence, that's what she said. So I see all these, and the first thing I see when the guy's like, "Hey, look at this," But the thing about eHarmony is there wasn't there was no photos. You just entered information about yourself, and there was a woman and Paula and I had lived in West Salem before we moved to Wanakee. And so I saw
another suburb of La Crosse.
Yes, the Metroplex. And so there was a woman there that was from West Salem. And that's the only reason why I noticed it's from West Salem. And when I looked at it, I looked at the profile, and I think I responded. I responded first, I think. And we just started going through the eHarmony thing, and fast forward. So when I got back into this, I felt a lot of shame. I found out years later that my wife's brother was not happy with me. And I mean, we're great, but and that was my biggest worry, that, with the boys, was I being selfish? Should I, just suck it up and but the thing is that there's no timeline. There's no manual, as I said before. There's no one that says, hey, you need to wait 2 years before you can date again. It's, people will judge. You just have to accept the fact that people will judge, right? What happened with it was that the first time that I met my future wife, Dawn, we had, through our communications, I learned that her husband had passed away in the same year from cancer as well. And So that was like, okay, this is weird. And so then when we first met on our first date, she was in West Salem and I drove up that night and we sat there and all we did was talk. And we cried because for the first time in my life, I had someone who knew what I was going through. Mm-hmm. And everybody else will give you a hug or a pat on the back and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I can only imagine. No, you can't. I don't want you to imagine what this is like.
But no, you can't.
No, you can't. I don't want you to be part of this. You don't want to be part of this, right? And what's weird about it is that it was so late that I actually slept on the couch. She slept in her bedroom. I slept on the couch.
Good move.
And when I left that morning, I gave her a small kiss. And it felt like it just felt so natural, so real, right? But then when I walked out and I left, I felt so guilty. I felt like, what did I do? That type of stuff. As a matter of fact, I went to my best friend in high school, him and his wife, and I asked for permission to date. They looked at me like I was crazy. I mean, we could spend another episode about all the intersections we had. And the biggest thing was that when she first met my mom, they worked together. They had worked together. My mom recognized her right away. And then it turns out that where she lived in West Salem, her late husband, and their son, Will, went to this restaurant between West Salem and Melrose. The waitress that waited on him every Saturday was my wife's godmother. So it was weird about all this stuff came together. But all that being said, it was not easy because Dawn brought an 8-year-old into my life who has been I never thought I'd be blessed with another son, and we just celebrated Dawn's, I didn't say year, birthday last week with all the boys and our grandson and their wives and girlfriends. And we truly feel like we're a big family. And they called the 4 boys. We don't refer to them as 3 boys anymore. It's 4. But it was not easy. And there was some rough patches. And there were some times where, when you have 15 and 17-year-olds and 10-year-olds, and they've lost their mom. And there was a lot of emotion. And to be honest with you, Tim, you're never completely healed. It'll flare up from time to time with all of them from certain things. I mean, we feel very fortunate. The most important thing to my wife, Paula, was family. And my family, my dad and my mom, and we've never really been the same. That closeness we had, because she was the one that kept everybody together,
The glue.
You were around her. You knew how she was. But what happened is that when Dawn came into my life, what's the most important thing to her? It's family. It's the same thing. And so that was, I think her focus on not, just trying to find someone to be the dad to her son because her husband was gone. She wanted a family. She wanted her son to grow up with brothers, and he got brothers. And we've worked very hard on it. We've made some mistakes. I mean, we'll freely admit we made mistakes along the way, with it. They're all thriving. They are.
There are a lot of people driving to work right now, listening to the podcast, and they're asking right now, Coach Decora, ask him the question. Why in the heck did it take so long? April 7th, 2018, you and Dawn Bolden would tie the knot. Why did this take so long? Tim Jandt, tell us.
Well, truth be told, Dawn and I were happy just being a couple. And she had always talked about having a beach wedding. And I was resigned to the fact that we were just going to be what do we call it? Fife? Yeah, because we were engaged. We've been engaged there's a movie that's called the Longest Engagement or something, like for 5.5 years or something. We beat that record. We did. But out of the blue, she said to me, I want to get married. I'm like, are you sure? And
did she get down on one knee and propose?
No, but I remember when I did, I gave her the ring. She looked at me and she was like, it's a ring. And then she said to me, It's going to be a long engagement. I didn't know it was going to be 8 years, but it was a long engagement. So
More importantly, did she say yes?
she did.
She did.
Yes, it was worth the wait.
Other than being happily married for, if I do my math right, 7 years, what is Tim Jandt doing now? Happily married, check.
Here's the thing for me is that I've been blessed with 4 sons that. No, here's the thing. Recently, I had a chance to. Dawn and I had a chance to pack up and pursue another very cool opportunity in my career. I turned it down. And the reason I turned it down is because I'm in a sweet spot in life right now.
I'm going to say it for you.
Yeah.
You turned it down because of the word family.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah. And we're thriving. And I have a tremendous grandson in Travis Riggins. And I have an awesome, 2 daughter-in-laws for Ben and Kenna and Nick and Liberty. And, Liberty's family is just awesome, the Kazais. And, my son Cameron has found a wonderful woman that he lives with, Anna. And then my last son, Will, and Zoe are just, 2 peas in a pod. And I would like to think, selfishly, that they looked at Dawn and I as an example of, and then previously with the older ones about how Paula and I were. And I hope that's the case, but they'll never tell me that because, your sons never give you any credit. But
sometimes I've heard this little adage that sons end up marrying their moms. Girls that are women that are very much like their moms, and then daughters end up marrying guys like their dads. And I'm guessing that's probably the case.
I think so.
Why you have that little twinkle when you started talking about.
And for me, it's, for example, when Will came into my life, he was 8 years old, and Dawn was not an athlete, and her late husband, was not an athlete. He played in high school, right? But he was not really a good athlete. What happened at an early age, because of Will being around Cam and Nick and Ben, he was just surrounded by, Wanakee football and different sports and that kind of stuff. I told Dawn early on that Will was probably going to be the best of the bunch. And she looked at me like I was crazy. And by the time Will graduated from high school, he had been on one state championship team. And then he started, and your son did too. I mean, when they start in a game at Camp Randall Stadium and you see their name up on the scoreboard, that's pretty cool. And
the hair on the back of my neck is standing up right now.
Yeah. And so the thing is that, I was blessed with, Nick was there for a couple of them too, and that was amazing. But I thought after Cam, I was done. But to have another run like I did with Will, and Will has, all of them have had their moments where, they kind of went off the rails a little bit. But they found themselves, they become great guys. Great and great fathers in some cases. I'm very proud of them, really proud of them, and I want to be around them. I want to be around them. I want to see them grow up. It's weird to say that. How about when you first said you're going to be a grandpa? Was that weird?
It was a little bit, but I had some really good role models.
Yeah,
and I couldn't wait to be a grandpa.
Yeah, Dawn wanted to be the grandma for the longest time. And then
I didn't push. I didn't put the full court press and say, "Hey, let's go. We got time on. We got time's a wasting here. Let's get the hay in the barn."
But I'm kind of contradicting myself because when I turned 50, I grabbed the AARP card. So why am I struggling saying I'm a grandfather yet I carry a proud member of the AARP club? The discounts are amazing. Come on, man.
It is. They are. This is where the subscribers, followers, and listeners take out the notebooks, pens or pencils, and going to take some notes here.
Okay.
Here are Tim Jandt's, a.k.a. Tim Scott's, 5 suggestions that have allowed him to survive and thrive the loss of a spouse. But I think these can be applied to just about anything, any situation where your dauber's down a little bit. And I'm glad you were able to get me something, and I think people can really... this will get them through.
I just thought of another one, by the way.
And
so now it's 6. Can I add another one?
5 point. We're going to say 5.5.
Okay. All right.
Here's what he shared, and I'm going to toss these in underhand softball style. Can you hit a softball?
I can.
You can.
Not very well, but I can.
Number 1, find some useful distractions. You submersed yourself in your work. Go ahead and hit that. 60 seconds. Go ahead and hit
that. A week. I was going to take 2 weeks off. I was a week away and a week out, and I wanted to go back to work. And for me, it was a wonderful distraction because all of this stuff was waiting for me when I got home. And again, I was blessed because my mom was there, so I knew things at home are okay. But yeah, that's what I did. I submersed myself in my work.
Number 2, talk with someone to share your feelings. Go ahead and hit that.
Yeah, I did. It was hard because it was hard to find someone who knew where you were coming from. It was a thing where I was not, Paula and I, had the boys baptized, confirmed all that stuff, but we weren't like, faith was not, part of our everyday life. And that's kind of what got it sparked for me was the fact that, when I met my pastor and she gave me her advice, and then when I met Dawn, whose faith is amazingly strong. And I think God led me to her because that was a person I could share my feelings with. And we do to this day. I mean, that's the strength of our relationship is sometimes she tells me how she feels. And sometimes I tell her how I feel. And that just has made us a great couple.
It then bleeds into number 3. Understand that you are not alone on this journey. And because of eHarmony and some other things working behind the scenes, you were delivered an angel.
Yeah, I was. I had said I was going to add one more. Now I think about it, kind of fits into this category or under this, is that it's okay to have blue days. And I used to, when I went back to work, I would close my office door. And I would literally, Tim, turn around in my chair and look out the window. And I would sit there maybe, I don't know, it seemed like a long time. And our business manager would come in because she was close friends with my wife, and she'd say, "You okay?" I go,
"No
yeah.
way."
Yeah,
somebody else.
Yeah, somebody else. Yeah, and I said, "I'm just having a blue day," and she said to me, "It's okay." And so it's okay to have a blue day once in a while. The thing about it is that I lost my spouse. Dawn lost her spouse, but you may have lost a child. You may have gone through other emotional things in your life. Maybe, you're struggling with a messy divorce, whatever it is, whatever that trauma you're dealing with in your life, you just have to understand you're not the only person in the world. Although you feel like it in the moment, you're not the only person who's gone through this. And you need to find some way, through, a podcast like you're doing, which is awesome, different ways just to understand you're not alone.
And at the beginning, I mentioned that little stat. Mm-hmm. There's 600,000 to 700,000.
That blew me away when you said that.
Men out there that are widowers. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they are out there. You already touched on this number 4 already a little bit, but you said find a way through exercise, prayer, volunteering, etc., to alleviate any of the mental health stuff that could be in. It works for anxiety. It works for depression. It works for PTSD, trauma. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and hit that.
I mean, for me, it was exercise. I didn't realize how much I love lifting weights and working out.
That was the first thing I noticed, really, truly, when we met a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like, this guy's different. He looks different. He looks great.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. But I get up almost every day at 5 a.m., go downstairs and I work out. Either I hit the treadmill or I lift, one of the two. But it's just, you have to find something, whatever that is. It's for Dawn, for her, it's prayer. When I come up from downstairs, she's reading her daily devotionals and that type of stuff. Some people, it's volunteering, speaking to groups, or just pouring yourself into something else. The hardest part about it is that, again, it's the companionship. Knowing that you go home to an empty house each night and you're surrounded by, memories of the past and that kind of stuff. I mean, we moved quickly out of our house within probably, a mutual friend of ours, and Russ Hellenbrand stepped up and said, "Hey, I got a house in the country. Go look at it." And it was out of the blue. And it turned out to be, at that time, one of the best things that we needed. We needed a change of scenery. Mm-hmm. And we moved out of town and had a big yard, And the boys can run and play. They could do all kinds of stuff out there. And it was part of the recovery, that we came back. But I think that's the thing, is you just have to find a way so that mentally and physically you try to heal the best way you can.
And then number 5, I think this kind of really sums up the relationship that you and your wife Dawn have, is number 5. It's okay to move on.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, that's a hard one, because there's a lot of emotions involved in it. You're always thinking what people think about you and how people look at you. I said earlier in this podcast that, what he told me last summer, that my brother-in-law said, I was very upset with you. I didn't really talk to you for 2 years after I found out you were dating. And I said, well, Terry, I'm sorry, but I didn't know that he goes, no, it's great, and him and Dawn get along great and everything else. It's not that. It's just that he lost his sister. And, to him, that wasn't right that I was dating that fast with it. I mean, we didn't dive into it, but, my 2 older sons, it took them a little bit of time to adjust to this, but it's okay to move on. But again, there's no time frame on this. There's no thing, well, he said he was on, I listened to this podcast and he was dating within 9 months or 10 months, whatever it was. No, that was whatever the plan was for me to move on. What your timeline is your timeline, right? And the thing that I realized early on is that it's my life, and it got taken away from me, a huge part of my life that I miss every day, but it's okay to move on.
It really is. I mean, you're the guy that has to live and put on your shoes every day, mm-hmm. and you got to put on shoes that are happy and a happy smile. And I'm glad, and I've had this discussion with a couple of other guests, that thriving is abstract. Yeah. I look from the outside in. I see you smiling. I see Dawn back there giggling behind the camera. I see you getting a little emotional. I look over there and she's getting emotional, but you have a place, both of you have places to go to now that you don't really have to go anywhere. Your emotional partner, your pillow is right there next to you, and that's what you need.
And I didn't even talk about this, but I alluded to it, that my wife's family, she did not have the best home life growing up. My wife's family, oh my God. I mean, they're just the best. I mean, and that's one of the things where I look at this, is that there are times now when I look back, and I tell Dawn this, I struggle now with feeling jealous. Not jealous, what's the word I'm looking for? I feel guilty because I've seen 2 of the boys playing 4 state championships. When we grew up in high school, my wife, Paula, was the best athlete in our high school, or one of the best. All we did was take the kids to, and basketball, baseball, we were like you guys, we were a sports family, right? She never saw any of that. People say to you, well, she did see that. She's there. I pray every day that that's the case, but I can't guarantee that. She didn't see Travis born. She wasn't there for the 2 weddings. Will started in a state championship game. His dad didn't see that. His dad didn't see him hit his first home run. Any of that stuff. And that's the stuff where you look back at it and you go, you feel guilty. And that's okay. That was the plan. And so this is why when we get back to, and I'm a radio guy, so I get long-winded, but what you realize, for those of you who are put in situations, which you were one, and Dawn was one, and I am one, and if people are listening or watching this, perhaps they are too, you are blessed with strength. And you just have to realize that you're blessed with strength. In your darkest moments, you have to realize, because for those of us who went through this stuff, we didn't know it. But when you come out on the other side, you go, oh yeah, I was blessed with strength I didn't have, with it. And I think that's I think that's, if there's one note that I will leave people with is that, I mean, for example, and I'll wrap it up. Oftentimes when we're at dinner and we pray and we talk about our friends who are in need, who are going through rough times, we always say, share our strength with those in need. Because we know we were given, and you were too, you were given an overabundance of strength. In your darkest hours, you feel you're weak, right? And you don't have the strength to go on, but actually you do. You do. And so to me, like, what you're doing is awesome. And if we can encourage people that you do have more strength than you think you do, and we can move forward, then that's what it's all about, right?
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Isn't that a song by somebody?
And it really pertains to the two of you, that you are now stronger and you're going to share that strength by coming on the podcast. You're sharing that strength. And anytime you talk to a group, or when you're sharing your story on some of your broadcasts, that when you're on the radio, I'm sure you sprinkle a little bit of that strength in there, because you just never know who you're helping out. What a great episode. I'm so glad you could join the Survive and Thrive 8791 crew today. Your story and how you've overcome, so to speak, the loss of a spouse is truly inspiring. It really is.
Thank you, buddy.
Your story reminds us all to have coping skills or mental health tools in the toolbox when a person, enters one life, leaves one life, and moves on to the next one.
It's a chapter.
It's a chapter.
It's a chapter.
You are surviving and thriving. Our call to action, Tim Jandt just shared his incredible story and what it's like to be by a spouse's side as they navigate a life-threatening disease, and to eventually lose a spouse and eventually move on is a heartwarming story. Sometimes bad things happen to good people, but in your case, you get the rebound effect. Good things happen to good people. Here are Tim's 5 suggestions that helped him survive and thrive. Number 1, find some useful distractions. He did with his work. Number 2, talk with someone to share your feelings with, and he has somebody really strong by him now. Number 3, understand you are not alone. Number 4, find a way through, whether that's with exercise, prayer, volunteering, to alleviate the anxiety and stress. And number 5, it's okay to move on. Final thoughts as we close another great episode of Survive and Thrive 8791. Are there any final thoughts?
Final thoughts of this is that it truly, and I want to thank you for what you're doing. I did not know your story and your struggles. When we were intersecting with our sons and everything else, I didn't know what was going on.
I was, all of the years of hiding and being ashamed of some things, I got really good at it.
Yeah, people do. And so to see you survive and thrive in what you're doing now, man, that's awesome. I want to thank you too for being, when I mentioned that I was going to come on, the boys were like, Coach Dakara, and so you did play a pivotal role in their lives, whether you realize it or not. And, I think what you're doing here is awesome, man. I do.
Well, I'm glad.
I'm glad you're on the iHeart podcast platform.
And we are on the iHeart podcast platform, Apple Podcast, YouTube, and Spotify. On our next episode of Survive and Thrive 8791, we will have another amazing guest in the Buck and Honey's remote studios who will share how they learn to survive and thrive. If you have a story to share, or you know someone who does, please reach out to me at tdakora@gmail.com. Until next time, hang in there with whatever you happen to be going through, and with hard work, dedication, and determination, you can survive and thrive. Until next time, take care.